Welcome back to Imperium Galactica. Commander Dante continuing his preparations for the invasion of Garthog territory. But before we get to that, I want to answer a couple questions that people have brought up. So, one is on the production screen, and people have pointed out that if you max out the importance, it doesn't really help you all that much, because you're going to use all the capacity anyway. Like, if we had a couple of missiles, for example, then these would split up 50-50, but if we drop these both down to, say, 70, then it would still be 50-50. It's always going to split your capacity. This is just for the relative amount of effort they're going to put into each one. That's not too important to me because I simply will only build more than one thing if I don't care which one gets done first. I micromanage how many I'm going to add day to day. However, the only reason I even did that, boosted the importance up to 100, isn't because I thought it was necessary. It's just my personal psychological OCD tendency. It bothers me to not have them at 100. So, it's nothing more than that. The other part is, we're asking about, are you going to run out of food supply? Did you forget to build your hydroponic food farms? No, I didn't. I did build the one on Sand Sterling in the couple days in between the end of the last episode and this one. And we can take a look at, you can see that is up there. Naxos looks like it's in trouble, but it's really not, because it has one that I've started right over here. So I'm still building those. I just don't build them until they're necessary. Building them early is just spending money that I could be spending on something else a lot of the time. Okay, so in terms of where we are now, you probably noticed that we are into the medium tanks now. We're building those. We're doing research on cargo pods, which is a related activity. I'm only doing this at half speed just to save a little bit of money and because I'm not in a rush at the moment. But cargo pods add 3 to the amount of tanks that a flagship can carry. It's normally 5 right now, so it's going to be 8. And that's any vehicles, not just tanks. And so that's a significant increase, 60% in the carrying capacity and therefore the effective maximum fighting force we can deploy on a planet. And the tanks require more than one factory to produce one per day. So they take quite a while, as we mentioned, and so we're getting into those next. But we have other activities to attend to.
We have discovered that the leader of the planets is a rebel. His escape ship will land in 3 hours. Until then, you must make sure that absolutely no one leaves the planet.
Okay, so the only part of that that's even arguably true is that the governor of Zeusen is in fact a rebel. And if we try to go investigate that and talk to the governor...
This is Dante. What's the situation on your planet?
Everything is all right here, sir.
Nothing new. So perhaps the governor is just playing it cool, but he'll continue that routine even after the point of it being no longer even arguable that you can potentially play it cool. We're going to move our entire fleet over there. The previous ones that were damaged have now been fully repaired. But while we're doing that, it's worth noting that the Colonel says we need to stop everyone from leaving the planet. No, we don't. You'll just get normal trader interactions if you do that. This is much like the smuggler mission, only it's even worse in that regard. And it's going to be a lot more than 3 hours. It's going to be on the order of 3 days or so before this comes to a head. And once again, we'll be warned when that happens. So all we've got to do is move our fleet over there. And that's pretty much it.
I had another flashback to that strange room. Why? What's causing these terrible visions?
So, Dante's issues continue, but in this particular case, there's nothing we can do. Like, if we go to the bar, there's nothing here at the moment. And he makes reference to the terrible visions.
Research completed.
Oh, we got some more research finished. So we have our cargo pods. We don't need to particularly necessarily build any yet, but we've got the money, so we're just going to slide in here. And we're going to get those underway. Add one cargo pod up. Build more tomorrow. And then what are we going to research next? Well, the only thing left that we really need for this invasion is the ion guns. And I'm once again going to drop these down to about half money expenditure, because that's about all we need to do. Of course, we're going to have one cargo pod per flagship. So, let's take another look around at all of our expenses. Of course, we're going to need to add more tanks. And then we're going to want to add one more cargo pod. And let's take a look at our planets. So, we are just fine here. Maximum population growth on Zeusin. Everything is in order there. Centronome is doing fine. New Caroline is doing fine. Now, we have a bit of an issue here on Achilles. It is time for them to make the jump to 20,000, which means we're going to be lowering taxes soon. We're going to want another police station. We're getting a little close on power. But also, as I mentioned before, since it's a dry planet, a desert planet, we need more than that. We need the water evaporator. And these are pretty pricey. They build pretty quickly, thankfully, but 45,000. It says production 12,000 population. We can ignore that. It's actually needed, you need one of these every 20,000, or population growth will begin to slow down. So, sort of an extra tax for desert planets. And then we'll need a power plant to run all of that, so all of a sudden, eek. You know, down to 31,000. So again, that's why we're not investing heavily and doing a bunch more things that we don't need to do yet. We're just grabbing what we need and then moving on from there. Forward to October 12th in the morning, and our luck has run out when it comes to dealing with the nuclear plant disasters. We just had a major accident on Zeusin. This is very typical. It's down to 84% damaged, and our fire brigade is going to gradually repair that, but in the meantime, we have a power shortage here. Thankfully, we don't have any factories on Zeusin, or it would be lowering that production and make things even worse. A couple of things that have been going on. Now, you can see the money is fairly tight. We are about halfway done with our tanks. We need a total of 24, 3 flagships times 8, and we are almost done with building a second flagship in addition to the executor that we were given to start this rank and beginning the third here at 90% on that. But in order to keep all of that going, I did have to stop building the cargo pods for now. We will still have them done in plenty of time. We've just only got the one in place, and we'll need 2 more of them eventually. And of course, the research continues slowly. Got a couple more days left on it for the ion guns. On the 13th, lucky or unlucky, our focus must go back to the governor of Zeusin.
Unidentified ship detected.
Interesting little blue color here. And of course, we should check in and see. We've got to intercept this ship. But what happens if we don't? Now just note the location here. Come all the way from this way, could have escaped out of this particular area of space in any direction, went through our territory, lots of places we could intercept them. I mean, presumably there aren't tons of human colonies in all directions from here, as we've got lots of other aliens around. And not only are they a rebel, but they make a beeline for Garthog 5. So I think they're actually traitors, you know. They are consorting with the aliens, our decades-long enemy, not merely simply being rebels to the human cause.
Captain, you are relieved.
The words of Colonel Douglas didn't say nearly as much as the stern expression on his face, angry, disgusted look in his eyes, and he also refers to us as Captain. So apparently at some point this mission was supposed to take place in the previous rank, but here we are, and we get thrown off of the flagship, get to see that for the first time, and the shuttle is going towards the camera instead of away from it, so that's kind of interesting. Let's see what the governor has to say for themselves. Yes, turn around at once, absolutely. The Interplanetary Police again. This isn't... Why don't we just call ourselves Commander Dante? Anyway, Governor of Planet Naxos. This is Zeusin, isn't it? Yes, I'm quite sure this is Planet Zeusin. Falsely accused for crimes. Well, we've heard that story before. Admiralty wishes to see me in prison, but wants to face their charges and attend the court and defend their honor. So, the implication being that the Admiralty is just going to throw them in a deep, dark pit without a trial. And let's say we're gullible enough to buy that. Yes, you can go to the court. I see you're a man of integrity. It should be more, I see you're a man of gullibility. But in any case, if that happens and we just let them go, we fail. But what we can do is just intercept them again with, like, no consequences whatsoever. Even less consequences than there should be. Because then you come back into the same conversation, and it's as if you never talked to them at all. It's just strange. In any case, we're going to stop here again, blah, 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 blah. If you'd finish up sometime soon, we'll continue the conversation. Yeah, we're going to follow the party line, the military line on this one. And this is always one of those lame excuses. If you resist, I must command my ships to open fire. The loss of innocent life that happened with that, I mean, it's going to be at least as much on your side, even assuming that you're innocent, at least as much on your side as it is on ours. So, you know, don't pretend that's a one-way street. In any case, yes, don't threaten me. You asked for it, yeah, whatever. So we're going to just send a few ships here, and you can attack them more conventionally. You can just sort of try to knock out some of the fighters, get some kills. It's not really worth it, because at this point in the game, you're not going to get a lot of benefit from, and you can see we're done enough damage, they want to retreat, and so this battle is over. But you're not really going to gain any benefit from the additional kills and the crew experience that you would get from destroying the fighters. So, and we don't even get a post-battle screen. How lame. You know, since a lot of our ships are going to be destroyed and obsolete soon anyway, we needn't worry about that experience and kills issue, and we're just simply going to move back to Centronome because we have to prepare for the invasion. That's where our shipyard is. And they go back to the planet, and everybody is, relatively speaking, happy. Okay. So, moving on to the 14th, let's check in on what we're building. We have a third of the way done now with our final flagship. Halfway done with our final cargo pod. We are more yet to go on the medium tanks, but only a few left. After today, we'll be almost done with those. Now, on the research side, we are pretty close on the ion guns. We'll be seeing those soon. So we're starting to wrap things up with getting ready for the invasion. Looking pretty good there. Now on Zeusin itself, you can see that our nuclear power plant almost done with the amount of the repair that the fire brigade is going to do, and then we're going to want to take over with our own repair. We'll be expending some more funds for that. But we're looking pretty good otherwise. Now, we just recently built a hospital here, and noticed that we tanked the population again. I've noticed this as a trend. It's going to be happening here to some of the other planets. Apparently, they get irritated if you don't have enough hospital capacity. But then they get even more irritated if you do have enough and you just built a new one. Why would building a new hospital tank your population? I don't know. Or population growth, but it's going to. And we actually need to build a new one on Sand Sterling now, so we get to an extent, observe that in process. And I'm not sure exactly where I want to put this, but I think right off here should be, I mean, this should be a reasonably good place. So we'll just put it there for now and save the rest of our money for other matters that are going to be coming up soon. So let's head back down to Zeusen and see about that power plant. I want to get that repaired as soon as it is time to do so. And of course, we're just waiting for it to go off the damaged bit here, meaning the fire brigade will have done its task. There we go. And now we can do repair, and our funding will take over.
This is prison vessel Riker 4. Ready for prisoner transfer. Thanks for your help, Commander.
Incoming message.
So somehow there, even though we're over here by Centronome, we are seen escorting the prison transport back to Zeusen. I'm not sure how all that works. What does the Colonel have to say?
You've done a very good job, Captain. Congratulations.
Douglas still hasn't gotten the memo that we're a commander. Get with the program, buddy. And of course, we've actually seen that particular cutscene, congratulations, bit from him before. October 16th now, and we've reached what is probably one of the most important points in the game, and definitely one of the most interesting in my opinion. We are now going to be ready to attack the Garthogs within this particular day. So, let's take a look around at where we are. Zeusen has about 13% left on the nuclear power plant repair, almost there, and is now positive on energy. Population growth beginning to recover. And Centronome is now ready to make that jump to 20,000 population and core planet status. So, we throw up the water evaporator and the police station, sucking up a good percentage of the money that we had saved. Now down to just over 100k, and we're not done yet. New Caroline needs an arcology for the next step in their growth. So we'll go ahead and throw one of those down. And then we're going to keep moving on. San Sterling and Naxos both have their hospitals now. Dumped them down to 68, now 69. So just a slight drop for them in terms of population. Both being in the same rough population neighborhood. So that is all set. And then as it comes to our research, we're almost finished with Spy Satellite. Why did we research this? Well, let's take a look back at our fleet for a bit. So if I haven't changed anything on it yet, let's say we're going to try to attack the Garthogs. Pick this planet. You cannot attack without ground units. Okay. So if we just throw in a few tanks, and then we tried to make that move, it will let us. Well, let's say we tried to attack Garthog 5, which is in fact where I'm going to be going. You can't attack this planet. It doesn't tell you why. And I'm not sure what their logic was in terms of giving you intel on the other planets and not Garthog 5. But since it just says alien colony, and even though it's called Garthog 5, we technically don't know that the Garthog are there. We have to deploy a spy satellite. We can't just use our survey satellite. We have to use spy satellite on an alien planet. So in order to proceed with the invasion, we actually did need to get that in place. and that research is almost done. In terms of the rest of our production, we have all of the medium tanks that we need. Ion guns, we're about halfway there. Had to build a total of 13, 4 for each of the flagships, and then another one to max out our cruiser. Everything else is pretty much set, though. We have the 3 cargo pods. We've got the flagship just finishing up here last bit. It takes a few days, even for 4 spaceship factories, to build a flagship, but that last one is almost complete. So all of that is looking good and moving forward. If we hop back into our research, this is going to be finishing up very soon. Just going to wait for this timer to run out for us.
Research completed.
Okay, so now the next step is looking forward. This is part of the game, is kind of like playing a game of chess, thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead against an opponent who you know what they're going to do. So we are going to get the cruiser next, what we're going to want for the next phase. And once again, we're going to just go with half expenses. Not going to increase it at all, because we are going to want our money continually for other matters. So now we're just basically waiting for the rest of this day, for the most part, for the flagship to finish up and for these ion guns to finish up so that we can move forward. But while we wait for that, it's worth talking about the differences between these planets. As it turns out, Garthog 4 is essentially the capital. It has by far the strongest space and ground defenses. Garthog 1, second strongest ground defenses, but fairly weak from space. Garthog 5, second strongest space defenses, fairly weak on the ground. Fairly weak on the ground also are Garthog 2 and Garthog 3, probably the weakest. Garthog 2, the very weakest overall. Let's just check through our planets again, make sure all of our taxes are set. And indeed they are. And so the reason I'm going for Garthog 5, though, has nothing to do with really, well, I mean, I want to capture these 3 behind and leave these toughest 2 ground battles for later, which is actually kind of weird from a standpoint of you're invading enemy territory and hitting them in the back rather than in the front. But that's the way I want to go about it. The reason I'm going for Garthog 5 first, though, is because it has a military spaceport. And I want to be able to use that, still good here, for the purposes of, you know, refitting and resupplying everything that I'm going to have going on with my attacking fleet. Instead of having to go all the way back to Centronome, this is quite a long journey, we can just resupply here and then go off wherever else. Another element to this approach that I'm taking is the idea that the best defense is a good offense. The Garthog will eventually attack us, but the longer we can prevent that, the better off we're going to be. And the more the planets you take, then the less frequent their attacks will be. So striking at them first is a very useful idea. And we're still good. Oh, we're going to bump you up 1. Okay. And then we're just about now here to finish up. Let's take a look at our spaceships.
Items produced.
Oh, the ion gun just finished. Okay, we're waiting on this yet. But as we move forward now, what do we want to expend on? The idea of thinking further ahead, we're going to use all of our bombs in this attack, but we're only going to need a handful for the next round. So I'm going to just queue up 6 bombs. And so the idea is that while we proceed with this attack, I replace what I'll need for the next one and, you know, be ready for the next link in the chain, as it were. Then let's just wait for this flagship to get up.
Items produced.
There we go. So it's taken just under 13 days for us to prepare for the invasion. I want to get done in 2 weeks, so we made it a little bit ahead of that time. Now, we do need to build here our spy satellite. We'll go ahead and throw one of those on. And then that will get finished well before we actually happen to need it. And then I don't want to build any of more of that stuff right now. We do want to, of course, fill out our fleet at this point. So, first of all, we have 2 flagships. We're going to add them on. And now you can see, once you get beyond a certain number of ships, they just sort of stack up all of your destroyer and cruiser types. Let's take a look at our cruiser and add on that second ion gun. And then we have, this is the Executor, which is where Dante is. It's our command ship. Then we also have the Chaotic and the Berserker. And then for all of these, we're just going to go through, max out laser weapons, max out bombs, max out missiles, max out everything that we can. Ion guns. And we need to put our cargo pod in place, and the rest of this is as it should be. They do come with light shields. We didn't need to produce those. And then through all the rest of these. All of that is as it should be. And then the Chaotic, we'll do the same thing there. And then we're going to, oh, don't forget the cargo pod. Then we're going to max out the rest of our tanks. So now we are ready. And since we can't actually attack Garthog 5, and of course we had to stay close to Centronome in order to be able to do this particular outfitting, be close enough to the military spaceport, we are going to use the move command instead of attack, move to the planet, and we're going to have to suffer that until we are able to deploy the spy satellite. So I think that is where we are, and when we come back next time, we're definitely going to be looking at, the invasion. There's going to be a lot of fighting. There's going to be a lot of decisions made in short order, and we're going to try to cut through these 3 planets very quickly, and we'll see how the Garthog respond to that. There's a whole bunch of new challenges coming up with managing these planets. All of that coming up soon. Till then, thanks for watching, everybody. More Imperium Galactica will continue.